The Hornets are down bad after 5 straight losses. It was players-only team meeting bad after the latest loss to the Houston Rockets. I'll talk about that. Plus, why is it so bad right now? And we'll preview tonight's game against the Wizards. That's all coming up on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
Welcome in. This is Locked On Hornets. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen every day. We are free daily wherever you get your podcasts. That includes YouTube. We also have a free newsletter. Go to LockedOnDaily.com to sign up today. Make that your first read. I'm Doug Branson from EveryHornetsBoxScore.com. I'm typically joined by Walker Mail from WFNZ 12 to 3. He's off for the rest of the week. I'm off most of next week, so we're doing a little kind of switcheroo here, and then we will reconvene after the new year. So thank you for making us a part of your day. I apologize. I think the audio was wrong on the Christmas Eve edition. So if you're interested in the Rockets post-mortem, I'm going to do a little bit more of that on this show. I did have some interesting stats, though, from my stat draft, the stat draft that we did, my picks in the stat draft that we did in the preseason. I had some interesting stuff there, so if you want to check back in on that, you can. I did update the audio. It's good now. So let's talk more about the latest loss. So the Hornets have lost 5 games in a row now. They are a little bit healthier, still missing Brandon Miller, who is listed as questionable for tonight's game. But generally, they are more healthy. A lot of the minutes restrictions that we saw for LaMelo Ball off the calf strain, a lot of the minutes restrictions that we saw for Mark Williams as he was playing after missing a calendar year of basketball, a lot of those are starting to lift. So they're not only healthier, but the rotations theoretically should be, more in a rhythm. But they're not, and the Hornets aren't in a rhythm, and they're shooting terribly. And they lose a game to the Houston Rockets 114-101. Their 5th straight loss, I said that, but also 13 out of their last 14 games have ended up in the loss column. That is bad. That is not, I don't think, what Charles Lee expected, not what they wanted. Certainly the Hornets had some, as an organization, as a front office, had some thoughts about a protected first-round pick that would have gone to the San Antonio Spurs had the Hornets been playing too good. But certainly they did not want this. And the players don't want this, certainly. And in the latest write-up from the Charlotte Observer, we got a look into that. This is from Rod Boone. Things were so maddening. The Hornets had a closed-door meeting to discuss the stench emanating from their 114-101 loss to the Houston Rockets at Spectrum Center. This is a quote from Miles Bridges. I feel like we established ourselves in the first 10 games as a team that plays physical. At one point, we were leading the league in offensive rebounding. We've just got to get back to that. We had a conversation. Taj really got us together in the locker room, players only, and he talked to us. I talked to the team. Taj talked to us a lot. I feel like that really got to us. So I feel like these next couple of games, we're going to see who really wants to play, unquote. Classic players-only meeting. And if you're going to have a players-only meeting, have it after 5 straight losses, after you went down 30-plus points to a Houston Rockets team that is good, that should have beaten you on a given night, but not beaten you that badly in the first half where you give yourself absolutely no shot to win. The Hornets have played good teams close this season, and they've gotten some surprising wins this season. And Miles is right that this team played more physically, particularly defensively, on the boards, offensive rebounding. That was part of the game plan. The half-court offense was going to be, if LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller have it going, that's great. But we got to have a backup plan, and the backup plan is we're going to crash the glass. We're going to get second chance points all over the place. And they were doing that early in the season without Mark Williams. And for a period there without Nick Richards, they had one of the thinnest front lines of any team in the NBA. And they were still playing with a ton of effort. And so I guess the question is like, will this help? And what about the messenger, right? Because it's a little bit like the hot dog guy meme in I Think You Should Leave. It's Miles Bridges going, we're all trying to figure out who did this. It's like, part of this is Bridges turning the basketball over. Part of this is Miles Bridges can't hit a shot to save his life. Part of this is Miles Bridges not being aggressive in the first half and waiting until the second half to heat things up in the absence of Brandon Miller. Part of this is the absence of Brandon Miller. Part of this is Josh Green and Cody Martin, the wings that you need to be 3 and D, being no 3 and then just a little bit of defense. It's nice. We haven't seen Taj Gibson on the court very much, but it is nice to have that guy who has been part of players-only meetings before in situations where they may have mattered more, where you have a team with expectations, with playoff expectations, with postseason expectations. Because I guess in some sense, like every team has some expectations of how you want to play. Like if you're like, what are the expectations for this team? Going into this season, there wasn't really that much talk about postseason play. There wasn't that much talk about playoffs. There was a lot of talk about daily improvement. There was a lot of talk about playing with effort, playing hard, playing with purpose. Of all the little things mattering. And I just wonder about a couple things. One, if that's enough for players, if they can get behind that kind of like, we're not going to be good this year, but we can make daily improvements messaging. Or for a youngish team that has no postseason experience, like if the only motivator is like, we've got to get to the postseason, or there are going to be major changes. If it's enough to say, all right, we're going to install these sort of baseline things that have nothing to do with your individual performance. It's all about team. I don't know. I don't know if that can motivate this particular group. It should. It should, because it's the only way. But then again, will it get better if the front office gets serious about putting playoff level talent at every single position? Because maybe it would have gotten better if LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller had stayed healthy for the vast majority. Maybe they could have found a way to survive without Mark Williams long enough to make something happen. But that hasn't been the case. And now things are starting to unravel. And you could have predicted that if you looked at the offense early in the season. We got a comment here from 574 that says the Hornets look like they have no clue what to do every offensive possession. These boos are warranted, unfortunately. I would say in that Houston Rockets game, there are games when they can definitely get to their actions and it looks somewhat okay. But there are fundamental issues. The fundamental issues being you don't have even 4 guys who can reliably shoot who a defense has to account for on any given possession. And so teams know that and they can pack the paint. And that means that more of your drives are going to result in turnovers because it gives the defense a chance to get set and anticipate passing lanes. It gives the defense a chance to collapse and poke the ball away. And your guards who are going to penetrate maybe are less likely to pass out to the corner. They're going to want to look to get something at the rim where the defense is ready and willing to block the shot. So there's that fundamental thing. And then if you want to push the pace, I'm not sure that there are enough guys on this roster that can push the pace consistently, meaning, all right, rebound comes off and it goes to Josh Green. Okay, Josh Green can run a break. It comes off to LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball can definitely run a break. It goes to Cody Martin. It goes to Miles Bridges. It goes to Mark Williams. Absolutely not. Mark has to take an extra second to find somebody who can run the break, and that's when things start to break down. So I would say that I think there have been times when the offenses look fine, but they're look. Yeah, I just think when you don't have enough playmakers on the floor, when you don't, the thing that you look at with Boston and some of the better offenses in the league, OKC, Golden State, it's all, you've got 4 or 5 guys who can shoot, they can pass, they can dribble, they can drive, and that all works. It doesn't matter who has the ball in their hands, something can happen, and that's just not the case with the Charlotte Hornets. That's what they have to build towards. But in the meantime, and why you have to have a players only meeting is in the meantime, you have to still give the effort on the defensive end of the floor. You have to still get back in transition. You have to still fight for those loose balls and for the 50-50 balls. You still have to crash the glass. Like, those are the kinds of things that are going to be the difference between the Hornets being competitive in a game, not winning a game, being competitive in a game, and being what you saw against the Houston Rockets. All right, coming up on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
I'll dig in a little bit more into the numbers, and we've got another comment from the Sicko Satchel. Plus, we've got a game against the Washington Wizards tonight. That'll be very interesting. They lost their last contest to the Washington Wizards, so the Hornets looking to bounce back in a major way. That's all coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Hornets is brought to you by Game Time. The holidays are the perfect time to make memories, and there's no better way to bring people together than at live events. Whether it's a big game, a concert, or a comedy show, Game Time makes it easier than ever to find great tickets at amazing prices. With their new feature, Game Time Picks, you can skip the endless scrolling and get right to the best deals on incredible seats. It's all about saving you time and money while finding the perfect tickets. Plus, you can use the super deal option to score top-notch seats at unbeatable prices. Game Time also gives you the features that make buying tickets stress-free, like the all-in pricing feature, toggle it on, no surprise fees at checkout, and a panoramic seat view so you know exactly what your view will look like before you buy. And with the lowest price guarantee, you'll always get the best deal, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets today with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time! Today's episode is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Managing subscriptions can be a hassle, and you might be paying for services you no longer use, or even paying for some of them twice. That's ridiculous. That's where Rocket Money comes in, simplifying your finances and helping you stay in control. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that tracks and cancels unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and even negotiates to lower your bills. With everything in one place, you can finally get a clear picture of your finances and start reaching your goals. Over 5 million users have saved a combined $500 million, with some saving up to $740 a year using Rocket Money's premium features. One of its standout features is the subscription tracker. It identifies and cancels subscriptions you don't want anymore with just a few taps. Plus, their goals feature helps you set aside money for the future effortlessly, taking the stress out of budgeting. Take charge of your finances today with Rocket Money. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and start saving. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Back here on Locked On Hornets, thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. I hope you enjoyed your holiday. I hope you're still enjoying your holiday, and we are heading into a new year and hopefully a new era of Hornets basketball that sprinkles some wins in. Like, I don't think anyone is sitting here asking the Hornets to go on a 7-game winning streak. I don't even think the sickos who listen to this show have those kind of expectations. You just want to see a competitive team, one that doesn't get booed off of their own home court. I mean, how often have we talked about away fans invading Spectrum Center or being able to hear a pin drop in Spectrum Center? There are the few of us, the sickos, who still hold this passion for this Hornets team. There aren't enough. There shouldn't be typically enough to boo a team off the court, but that's what happened because it's a holiday game. Some locals are packing it in a way that maybe they weren't before. And then to put up that kind of performance definitely deserved a players-only meeting. And then we've got this question here from Rocky from Salisbury, who is one of the sickos in the Sicko Brigade. By the way, that's joinsubtext.com/Locked Locked On Hornets. You can get a 14-day free trial and ask some questions. I'm going to open up the Sicko Satchel as soon as I get done recording this episode to get some new questions in. But Rocky says, Doug, why do we suck so bad? How is a team with LaMelo, Miles, and Mark Williams getting trounced by the Wizards and only putting up like 30 points and a half against a Rockets team they beat on opening night? I talked a little bit about this on the Christmas Eve episode, but I didn't put up the right audio. I did have the right video up on YouTube, but I didn't have the right audio. But I think what you have to take into account with that, particularly with the Rockets loss, I don't really have any excuse for the Wizards loss, other than if you look at that game, we'll get into this a little bit when we preview it coming up. But if you look at that game, they were a couple of 3-point shots going down away from winning that game. So that's the only thing that I can say about the Washington Wizards game. But in terms of the Rockets, they've been generally healthy for the year. They've been getting better from game 1. I don't know if it was game 29 for them, but it was game 29 for the Hornets. But they have been getting better every single game. They've been tested. They were tested in the Cup. They didn't win the Cup, but they had an identity that was almost good enough to take them to the Cup final. And that identity was led by a psychotic Ime Udoka demanding defensive accountability on the floor. And you add a guy like Dylan Brooks, who loves to play the villain, who is now being given an opportunity, I should say, to be a hero for that team in terms of shot making. But they have an identity. They forged that, and they've been consistent with it. I mean, that's what Miles Bridges was saying, right? In that quote that I read in the first segment about the Hornets played like the team they wanted to be for the first 10 games, and then something happened. Then injuries happened. Then roles changed. Then guys were given an opportunity, guys that would not have been in the rotation otherwise. They brought an energy and a spark. And then as the team got healthier, and this is sort of what I was hinting at in the first segment, as guys got healthier, you saw the effort level actually go down because those effort guys, they were fully motivated to play because they are playing for survival. And when you talk about a team like the Rockets, they see playoffs. They see postseason. And so every game for them is about how do we get to that end goal? How do we survive the regular season to get into the playoffs and then do some damage? Not a lot of this team has experienced the postseason. And the question is, which guys are hungry enough for that postseason to do the things this season to set themselves up for next season? It's hard enough getting guys motivated for what's coming up in May and June of this season. I mean, the Celtics are going through that a little bit. Like, they're after winning a championship, they're trying to find their fire, their intensity that allows them not to get beat by a Philly team that hasn't won that many games this season on Christmas Day. They're trying to find whatever that is. It's hard enough to get them motivated to just do the thing to get them to the postseason. Now you're asking all of these guys who never tasted that, hey, I need you to do the things every single day so that we can get this team ready that's not really talented enough to make the postseason to get to the postseason next season. But that is the ask. And if they're committed to finding guys like that, then that's what this whole season is really about from now on, is like, let's find the players that can be motivated by that thing. I think Moussa Diabate is a guy that's motivated by that thing. I think LaMelo Ball is motivated by that. I mean, I gave him props in that Rockets game. I mean, I think he was trying to pull guys together. I don't think he's the players only meeting locker room leader type. I'm not surprised that it was Miles Bridges and it was Taj Gibson. I'm not surprised at all that those were the two names that were leading that conversation. I think you need only listen to a few LaMelo Ball post-game press conferences to know that he's not a conversationalist. He is a genius on the basketball court. He is a wizard. He breaks physics. He is a chaos agent on the offensive end of the floor. Beautiful basketball player. Not someone that I expect to do that. Brandon Miller might be that guy, but he's not on the floor. So you can't have the guy that's not on the floor right now leading the players-only meeting. Speaking of Brandon Miller, will he be on the floor tonight against the Washington Wizards? The Charlotte Hornets certainly hope so. I'll give you the latest on him and his injury status, plus a few things to watch when they play Washington tonight in D.C. That's coming up on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hornets is brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. More Locked On Hornets ahead. So there are complexities for why the Hornets are this bad right now, and then there are simplicities. And the simplicities are the Hornets are not hitting shots. And when they don't hit shots, some teams cannot hit shots and be okay. I mean, the Rockets, they're a team that can get in a dogfight and win a game, 95-93. The Hornets are not that team. They're not built like that. They don't have a roster like that. So they've got to hit shots. They've got to generate early offense, which means pushing the pace, but it means hitting a few threes, getting a few guys going. Those early actions, very important. I think Mark Williams is key to this too, man. He almost has to be perfect down low when he's, there were a few opportunities that he had at the rim early on in that Rockets game that he doinked. And those are really you've got to get into a rhythm, and so you've got to have that guy hitting shots. So when he's working the pick and roll, they've done, particularly LaMelo Ball, has done a great job finding him in positions, drawing defense, and finding him in positions where he can just dunk it easily. But when he gets those solo opportunities at the rim, he has to knock them down, and then guys have to hit shots because that's going to motivate them to play on the defensive end of the floor. And then the question that the front office has to ask is, how do you get the team that doesn't need to be motivated by the shots going in? And as I said before, the last game the Hornets played against the Washington Wizards at home, that really could have been decided by a few buckets going in the third quarter as the Wizards made that rally going from the end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter, and the Hornets were never able to wrestle it back. So they play the Washington Wizards again tonight. No Kyle Kuzma, no Marvin Bagley, similar injuries or similar holding guys out until they're traded that they were dealing with last time. So what's the key? The key is you have to take Jordan Poole out of a rhythm, whatever that takes. If it takes a double team, LaMelo Ball, if you're going to step up and take the challenge, take the challenge. Do not let that guy get to the rim at will. That's what happened in the last game. Poole got into a major rhythm. So whatever scouting report, if he needs to go left, if he needs to go right, whatever you got to do it. Because that's going to be the key. Poole got them started, and then Kispert helped finish them. So this is a game, again, you knock down a few shots, you get a good start. You have to be ready to play this game. If you can't get ready to play a game after you have the players-only meeting, then I don't know what to tell you. But it is coming in this period where the Hornets are getting a lot of rest, and they're getting these multiple days off. And I don't know that that's been necessarily great for the Hornets. I look at the schedule that they've got coming up now, and they're going to be out on the road a lot, and it's going to be a lot of, 5 games in 8 days, 7 games in 10 days, and that might be good for the Hornets, just to keep them into the rhythm, keep them focused. They're going to be out on the road, so I think that actually, it wouldn't be good for the Hornets if they had actual postseason expectations, but it might be great for them just trying to figure it out. Wizards, I should say, They want to play with pace. You've got to get back into transition. Everybody has to run the entire 48. And they're a great fourth quarter scoring team too. The Wizards somehow they tend to be. Well, that's actually explainable because they tend to be down, double digits, sometimes 20 points in the fourth quarter. The other team lets the rope go, and then the Wizards are able to score. But they know that that's their quarter where they can heat up. So you can't be in a close game. You can't be it can't be a 5-point game going into the fourth quarter. You really have to step on some necks. And Brandon Miller, questionable for this game. Hopefully they can get him back because that's he's been struggling to hit shots this season. His 3-point percentage is down. Most everyone's 3-point percentage is down on this team this season. But that's a guy hopefully off of that injury can come back and find the bottom of the net and help this team get back. And I think it's a guy that can settle the defense down. And it's a guy that when, at least last season, when this team started to get unfocused, he was a focuser. He was somebody that could speak on the court, not just in the locker room. I think they need all that. So hopefully they get a full deck of cards. They can get the win over the Washington Wizards, because if they don't, I don't know what questions start to get asked at that point. I mean, if you can't beat the Washington Wizards, who can you beat? There's no more. Do you have another locker room meeting? Where do you go from there? And ownership has been watching. Is this an indictment on Charles Lee? I don't think so. But if they keep losing games, something has to give. If the organization is fully bought in on their head coach, then they have to make major changes to the roster. There's just there's no other way around it, right? Let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnHornets. You can let me know directly what you think on subtext. Join subtext.com/LockedOnHornets. I will be back either solo or with David Walker tomorrow, and we'll close out this week. I'll recap this Washington Wizards game. David's on the notes tonight for everyhornetsboxscore.com. Check that out. You can subscribe for free. You can get recaps of the game for free. And then if you want the deeper analysis and you want some of the other stuff we offer there, or you just want to support us, you can at everyhornetsboxscore.com. Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Go to the lockedondaily.com website and get our free daily newsletter so you stay kind of plugged into everything that's going on, not just with the Hornets, but with the NBA as well. There's a little fantasy in there. There's a little all NBA talk. So if you're a Hornet Sicko